Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a lower dynamic workout. So my variation for this 3-week wave is a squat variation because the last 3-week wave was a deadlift variation, and it's an 18-inch box squat. So this is my standard variation when doing dynamic squats. And the reason for that is, one, it's very easy to set up and practical using the bench. Two, it's comfortable because the bench pad is nice. But three, the most important one is it is the best variation for me to work on power out of my sticking point. That point where my femurs are parallel to the floor is my sticking point in a squat. So I'm trying to explode out of that position. I use 75% of my total 1 rep max. That's bar weight plus band tension. And they moved very well. I had a nice pop up with them all the way to lockout. So I was very happy with those. So moving on to the first accessory here, it is good mornings using my safety squat bar. This is my new favorite variation of good mornings. I've said this in a few videos, but I don't actually like doing good mornings with a regular straight bar. I find it rolls up my neck in the bottom position and it's just very uncomfortable. And I find that it doesn't actually effectively train my posterior chain like my lower back, my glutes and my hamstrings. Instead, it's just digging into my neck and falling off. It's just terrible. But with the safety squat bar, it is very comfortable. Other good alternatives could be something like a Smith machine where the bar is fixed and isn't going to fall off, but you just have to send your hips back more during the reps. Or I have a cambered bar, an open trap bar, which is also very useful because you can sort of hug the camber in the bar with your arms and it stops the bar rolling off the top of your head. So they are two other good morning variations. If you have tried good mornings before with a regular bar and you don't like them like I don't, I would advise just switching up the bar and seeing which works for you. But for me, this is the best one. The high bar position actually increases like the length of your spine effectively. It's a bigger turning moment, so it's a bit more challenging. But two, it just sits there very comfortably. The camber in the bar is very useful. And here I went the heaviest I ever have gone at these with 120 kilos for 2 sets of 10. These were very challenging. It's almost annoying how easy it looks. It looks like I'm just bending over and standing back up, but these felt really challenging and I was a bit shaky on my feet after them, but I was very happy and they should help really develop my posterior chain, particularly for my squats and my deadlifts. So moving on to the next accessory here, it is quad extensions. I went at 100 pounds, which is sort of a medium weight for me. I've gone as heavy as like 160 pound on quad extensions. However, if you've been following the series for a while, you'll know I've been dealing with a knee injury basically for like 2 years now, but since the beginning of the series, and it has improved dramatically. So here is the best my knee has ever felt at this weight. At 100 pounds, my knee has never felt this good. Normally I would get pain on my right knee every rep, and if I've gone heavier, I have sort of done that before, probably stupidly, because obviously you don't want to exacerbate an injury by going too heavy, but I mean it has been really frustrating dealing with this injury for like so many years. So sometimes I was like, oh, I don't think I can take not training any longer effectively. I'm just going to hope the knee gets better, and I'm still strength training, so hopefully it should help rehab the knee if anything. No, being smart and choosing the right weights and seeking actual rehabilitation from like a physiotherapist has been the best thing. But my knee has slowly gotten better, and now I was able to get sets of 20 at 100 pounds, which is actually the most I've ever done at the 100 pounds. So my quads are feeling at their all-time strongest and my knee is feeling healthy and at its best. So overall, these quad extensions were just a complete success. And at the end of this second set in particular, like I could barely stand after these. It hurt from like rep 8 on the second set. They were pumped up massively. And as you can see there, I was, feeling it. So the next accessory here is calf raises. Again, I'm just using the safety squat bar because it was easy. I just left it on the rack after my good mornings. And I'm doing elevated calf raises this time. So I have a 4-inch elevated block, which is the highest elevated block I have. It provides an amazing stretch on the calves, and in general, I would advise you use an elevated block when doing calf raises. It basically just doubles the range of motion and allows you to get a great stretch. But not every time I do that. Sometimes I just do it off the floor, or I do have like a 2-inch elevation as well. So sometimes if I go really heavy, I can't actually get the weight up on the elevated block, so I just do it flat. But this is a great variation of calf raises using an elevated block. So they went well. I managed to get sets of 12, I think, at 120 kilos, which is pretty good for me, and pump the calves up. Then the second to last accessory here was hip abductions. So I tried to set up cable hip abductions. Annoyingly, the sort of strap that ties the cable to my ankle's much bigger than they sort of accounted for. So there isn't a lot of Velcro crossover, and it kept just snapping and coming undone, like even if I did like 1 or 2 reps. So that is what I wanted to do in this workout. However, I had to resort to banded abductions, which are still great. I got sets of 15 here using this sort of 4-band. Now, obviously with bands, you can't accurately track how much tension there is. So you can, what you can try and do is keep the same technique every time and then progress with harder and harder bands, or by wrapping a band round more in the anchor. So if you only have access to like 1 band, for instance, your anchor point, for me, that's round my reverse hyper. I've just hooked it round that foot placement. If you wrapped it more around there, the band tension is obviously going to be harder. So if you only have 1 band, that is a very effective way of progressively overloading. But one of the things I advise is that you always try and keep tension even in the bottom position. As you can see here, I've walked away from my anchor so that even at the base of my range of motion, when my feet are together, there is tension in the band. It's still pulling across, and that has meant that it hits the hip abductors here throughout the entire range of motion. So they felt very effective. I was actually quite glad I did those banded abductions. They're working more on like explosive power, trying to kick your legs outwards anyway compared to the cable. But in future, I'm going to have to try and invest in a better ankle strap for the cable if I want to do those, because the one I've got simply is not working. So final accessory here is reverse hypers. So I had programmed just a miscellaneous lower. Sometimes I specifically have reverse hypers programmed, but this time it was just any lower body exercise of my choosing. So it could have been something like a glute kickback, could have been something like tibialis raises. They're not particularly useful for powerlifting, or something like hip holds. Instead, I elected to just go for reverse hypers because I was in a little bit of a rush with this workout. I was meeting some family like 20 minutes after this, and I had to try and get showered and packed. So the reverse hyper is really easy because it's just set up, but I was happy I did it. It pumped up my lower back, and after doing the good mornings earlier in the workout, these felt very challenging, but they moved well, and yeah, pumped up the posterior chain, which is always the goal with reverse hypers for me. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching to the end, and I hope you have a great day.